Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series.
Because creators are businesses.
What we do is not simple.
Give, the fans everything that they deserve.
Being creative
is like doing a 5,000 piece puzzle.
is something that you can learn and do over and over again.
Always be as authentic as I can be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am thrilled today to have Miss AJ Bishop Andrews here with me. She's an internationally recognized speaker, wealth strategist, and the founder of FEROZ. I am so excited to have her here with me and dig into her entrepreneurship mind. AJ, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about having this conversation with you. You just seem like a really energetic. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't wait. And I'm so interested to hear what got you down the path of entrepreneurship. What got you started on your journey in pursuing your own business and company?
Well, when I get this question, I sometimes think to myself, I'm like, was I ever not an entrepreneur? Because I was that little girl who had the lemonade stand on the side of the road when I was a little kid. I always remember thinking of the business that I was going to start, but that's not actually what happened. I went to college, and of course, after college, you go get a corporate job or you get the steady paycheck. And so I ended up going that route. I spent 20 years in the wealth management industry. I was a financial advisor. I used to lead very large teams. And although I felt like an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur within corporate, there was always just those, the red tape, as I like to call it, or the boundaries that I always had to live within. And I'm just much more of a creative person, and I saw a need. I would say that's really what created my desire to finally break away. Was I saw this need for specifically women and the lack of confidence that they had in money, finances, and wealth. And the story I wanted to tell and the picture I wanted to paint was very different than what the current norm and the current narrative is around women's ability to be successful, powerful, and wealthy. And so I realized I have to be the one. I have to do this. And it's been an incredible ride. And I'm just so grateful that I found the courage and took the leap to make it happen, honestly.
And what I love about your company is it's a movement redefining wealth, power, and legacy for high performing women.
Yes.
I think it's incredible. And I think that there's so many misconceptions that we've had to work through in terms of women's roles, how women should be in these certain high performing roles in these leadership positions. And so I think it's incredibly powerful that you've set out on this mission to redefine all of this and kind of charge through it and say, hey, we can do this too.
Yeah, when I came into the industry, early 2000s, there just weren't women in the industry. And even today, there's still less than 20% of wealth managers, financial advisors are women. And the challenge is in 10 years, in less than 10 years, women will actually control the majority of wealth. And so it's that whole idea, right? If you can't see it, you can't be it. And there were oftentimes I found myself in the room as the only woman of color. And that just always felt like a space of I can't be the only one interested in or I can't be the only one who has this knowledge, or I can't be the only one that, has this passion and this drive to help other women. And it's not that there wasn't more women out there. It's just the fact that there weren't enough of us to see and there weren't enough of us to model. It's just even in what we've seen in the past 10 years with entrepreneurship and the ability for women to really grow their wealth in a brand new way, right? This idea of a creative economy versus having to go into a job and work the traditional 9 to 5. There's so many different ways for women to build their wealth, whether that's they're a stay-at-home mom and they want to blog a couple times a month or start a podcast. There's actually more ways to become wealthy. And I define wealth more than just money, but there just weren't enough examples of that. And so my journey felt like it just was kind of like if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
And it's a very different, right? We're looking at the norms, we're looking at the narratives, we're looking at what I call invisible rules that women have had to live by for generations,
Yeah.
and looking at that and saying, well, how do we actually take back our own independence and our own authority? And that's obviously through really confident decision making and candidly community.
Now, when you were making the jump from being in the space of a financial advisor and being inside of a business and going and founding and being an entrepreneur, is there a mindset shift you had to make, a different strategy, something that you had to change that sets you apart, that says, okay, I'm in a different headspace now. I have to think like an entrepreneur and not like I'm inside a big corporation or a big business or something like that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I started my career as a financial advisor, and then I started to, like the corporate ladder. I was like, hey, I want to lead financial advisors. And then I wanted to lead strategy. And then I oversaw the rollout of a very important program called Key Private Client, if you're in, right, the areas of Key Bank. And I would say that the biggest challenge for me was in the past, I always had a team to help me, right? Like I'm a very team-oriented individual. Even though I have what I call a purpose-driven business, I have a team. And a lot of people think, well, that's a little counterproductive, right? Shouldn't you be at a certain level of revenue or a certain level of productivity before you bring on a team? But what I've always known and seen is like, doing things on your own isn't as fun, number one, but the collective knowledge, especially the fact that I work with women, is tremendous.
Yeah.
And so the biggest shift I had to make when I shifted from corporate America to entrepreneurship is really allowing for things to get messy,
Yeah.
right? Allowing for, rather than having a day where I would come in and my entire calendar was already scheduled for me. All the meetings were already on there, right? All of the resources, all of the connections I possibly could have ever wanted were literally at my fingertips, to showing, waking up in the morning and going, okay, how am I going to spend this time that I so desperately said I wanted? Because before it felt like my right, I had no control over my time. And now I have an abundance of it. So in the beginning, it was really challenging for me to make that shift. I thought that being busy, I thought that the more meetings and the more projects I could take on, right, the more value I was adding. And I think that's just a mindset and a limiting belief that I brought over from corporate America, is I have to be busy and productive in order to be successful.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm very conscious of my time, because that is the one resource we can't get back ever. And I really focus on the top, like what are the top priorities I have for the day?
Yeah.
Like, how do I want to be with others, like in conversation, in connection? And I let that guide my day versus being so focused on projects and to-do lists. And the ability to just allow for that creativity and the spontaneous connections and collaborations has just been everything to me, right? Like it's created this whole new path that I would have never imagined.
I was just funny enough about to ask you how you personally define success today, so that's great that we just hit on that.
Yeah. It's a moving target.
Yeah.
And really, the book that I just wrote, it's coming out in January, Rich Like Her. It's about four women. It's a narrative fiction, and I chose fiction intentionally because I'm tired of the how-tos. I'm tired of people telling me how to.
Yeah.
Because when you have like a blueprint or a template, yeah, like it's great steps, but it's also like that biggest journey, that success and fulfillment is what you create within, right? It's this idea of what really makes me happy? How do I want to spend my time? What do I feel passionate and purposeful about? Different than, right, the things that we've been taught to compare ourselves to or to compete for. And so it's a very big shift. And I consider myself a very high achieving, high performing woman. But the difference now is, rather than me trying to compete or compare myself to friends, family, influencers, celebrities. It's like, no, no, no. Like, how do I get better every single day?
Yeah.
And to me, that feels so much more fulfilling because I am in full control of that. Yeah, I can't control like what's going to happen in the news or if my teenager decides he wants to do his chores or not. But like I can actually be in control of where I'm putting my attention and my energy. And that to me is like the ultimate sense of success and fulfillment. Like I'm all for that.
And you often talk about how success on the surface can still feel very, very empty.
Yes.
What was your turning point, and how does that now influence how you guide women through redefining wealth and power on their own terms?
Yeah, there's so many moments to be honest, and I feel like it's a evolving path to be honest. But I would say the moment I like the moment that always sticks out for me is I'm half Brazilian, so feroz it means fierce in Portuguese. And I was almost 30, I think. I was approaching 30, and I went back to Brazil with my mother, and she hadn't been back in decades. Like, she hadn't seen her family. Like, it was my first trip ever, and she hadn't been for multiple reasons. But I remember getting there and realizing, like, I've never been in this type of environment, like a developing country where there's no running water. The houses literally are what we would consider shanties with tin roofs, and the bathrooms are outside. And I just remember all the fear, like in my body, of like, what does this mean about my safety? Do I feel safe here? And after literally spending an hour and just all the joy and the love and the community, I just sat there and I'm like, holy moly, like we have this so wrong. We believe that happiness is money or it's things or it's possessions. And here I was, right, with community members, family members that had absolutely nothing, and they had more joy in their lives than I'd seen. And some of the most successful business owners and other, right, people that I'd worked with for decades. And so seeing that really put me on a different trajectory. I started really deciding how do I want to spend my time, right? I always say there's three things that are the most important T's in our lives. It's our time, it's our talent, and it's our treasure, right? Our money. So how do I want to be with those three different T's? And how do I make sure that I'm more in alignment so that when I'm giving advice or I'm coaching other individuals or I'm guiding women towards retirement or leaving a corporate job they hate, that they can see what's possible. And so what I just found was a lot of women were saying, like, is this really it, right? Making great money, living in beautiful homes, driving fantastic cars. But because they hadn't taken the moment to really sit in that uncomfortableness of, is this actually what I want? It creates this dissonance and that discontent and that frustration and that anxiety. So I think the biggest piece of, right, what I enjoy doing now with my own personal lived experience and 20 years now of working with successful men and women is helping people get really clear about, right, like their North Star, as I like to call it, right? Like, what is it that gets you up every single day? Because as I mentioned earlier, we have like the economy is so different, right? You could grow chia pets and potentially make millions of dollars. You could, put your genius in a PDF. Like there's just so many ways to generate a living that we don't have to be forcing ourselves to wake up every day to go do work that we're not passionate about.
We talk about this. It's COVID times. Like, no time more than ever did we see like people leaving the workforce and going and starting their own thing because they're sitting there in their homes. They're not able to go into an office where it maybe made a smidge bit of difference that you're able to be around people. But we were in a time that you're seeing a lot of people, even today now, the job market's very, very difficult. And you're seeing a lot of people saying, okay, well, if I can't go get a full-time job, I've got to figure out a way to still bring money in the door. I'm going to go do my own business. What is it, the thing that I am passionate about? What is it, the thing that, like you were saying, I have my genius in that I can go and found my business and become an entrepreneur or do whatever it is, that they then become successful. And it's just no time more than ever are you really seeing that than today. And it's intriguing. It's scary because you're seeing so many people hop in and doing similar things to, I'm a social media manager. You're like, there's a lot of us social media managers out there today.
Mhm.
But it's so interesting to watch all of this as it's happening and how people are figuring their way out through all of it.
Well, and I think you're bringing up so many important pieces. So, I teach a business course at the local university, and we were talking about social media managers. Like that job didn't even exist 10, 15 years ago. So the fact that it's a very great job, and honestly, right, social media is now your new business card. It's now your new website. It's now your new resume, right? Like what is going to exist in 10 years that none of us have even ever thought of.
Yeah.
But what I'm really clear on are two things. One is you don't want to put pressure on your passion. Like I've made that mistake in the past where I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm tired of doing this. I'm just going to go like start my business and all the people are going to come running and they're going to be like banging on my door for my advice and guidance. And what I realized that time was, hey, like you need to have a really nice, comfortable like nest egg. And I
Yeah.
don't mean like retirement, but the oh shit money. I'm sorry, and I hope I can say that
Yep.
word here.
You can cuss on here. You're
But you
good.
need to have that oh shit money set aside. And until you do, there's a variety of things you can do. And I call that a portfolio career. So, like, before I even knew it, like, I started working two jobs when I was 14 because I was driven to get I wanted my car, I wanted my driver's license. And so the reality is we all have the same amount of time, right? And I think some of us are quiet quitting. I know a lot of people are quiet quitting. Well, what can you be doing instead of your job? And you heard it here first, right? On the side with that extra hour to start thinking about what your business might be, or to start making the connections, or to start building the business plan, or to start making, right, the marketing or the content. It's just, I think I always fear when I see very talented people who could do anything and can do anything, make the leap and then have that pressure,
Yeah.
that financial pressure on their passion, and then they burn out and then they have to go back to corporate or they have to go back to the job they hate.
Yeah.
Like, I think right now, every conversation I'm in, there's at least, if I'm at a table of four people, there's probably two or three of them who wish they weren't in a corporate job. And that's not, I don't think that's like ambitious for me to say. I think a lot of people, to your point, after COVID, are
Yeah.
seriously like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I driving an hour to work? Why am I sitting in a cubicle? Why am I, a robot?
Yeah.
Why am I linked into the matrix? What else could I be creating that could literally change people's lives? And can we use our corporate jobs or our jobs as a loan? Like someone said that the other day, and I'm like, oh, that's so brilliant. Like use that time as a loan to help you build the business. And then when you're at a place where you're like, I can do that jump and I can make that jump, then there's just so much more freedom and you're not like pressuring. Like everyone knows like when that desperate energy feeling when someone's just about to like be on the edge. And I just don't want that for anyone. So a lot of the work I do with women is we talk about all of the options that are possible to start building their next chapter or their
Yeah.
second, right, their second inning before they actually make the leap. So they can have that certainty and that confidence that they can actually make it.
Yeah. AJ, my last question for you is along your journey, has there been one book that you would recommend that has inspired you, made an impact on you, that has changed your mindset, whatever it may be? Is there one book that stands out to you that you would recommend to everybody?
Yeah, my one of my absolute favorite books. I actually was just pulling it out. My niece is coming to visit me today. Is called "Let Your Life Speak," and
Okay.
it's by Parker Palmer. And it's this whole idea of vocation, right? We've really been kind of circling this idea of vocation, which basically means where you find your purpose and you find a way to make money doing it, right? A way to serve you, a way to serve others. Like it's this beautiful like circle of how do I find work that gets me excited, that gives me passion, but also contributes to the economy, to my community, to the
Yep.
world. And so it's a very small book. I actually think it was written in 1980, but it literally blew my mind open. And it made me realize like there's just so much possibility in the world for all of us because none of us are the same, right? Like the way you think about things and the way I think about things are very different. And we need that and we want that. I think we've gotten to a place where we're just so we're so polarized, right? Like if you don't think the way I think, then I can't. And it's like, no, we actually want that. We need that. We need differences of opinions and viewpoints because that's where like the juiciness and creativity lives. So
Love
Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer, amazing book. I give it away all the time. It's one of my favorites.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss AJ Bishop Andrews, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me. Let me dig into your world. I so appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me. I so enjoyed this conversation, and I just wish you nothing but the best in your next endeavor. And thank you for all that you do as well, too.
Yeah, thank you so much, AJ. I appreciate those kind words. And you guys, I'm going to have all of AJ's socials down below. Please go check her out, give her a follow, stay in tune with everything that she's doing. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.